up with you.
Welcome back to Kids in the Kitchen. We are making desserts for your holiday season today. Prior to the break, we started our sweet potato pie, and we also made a nice white chocolate peppermint bark. During the break, we mixed our sweet potato pie, and the last thing we have to do is pour in our pie shells. See the consistency? It's kind of nice, a little smooth. All I have to do is put it in here, spread it out. We're going to do about 2 pies with what we've made today. And we're going to put these to a side. Through the magic of being on television, we already have completed our sweet potato pies for the day.
Okay, well, we're going to get started over here on our red velvet cake. Now, red velvet cake is a very luxurious cake. It's very often used to celebrate. So and because it's red, it's perfect for the holidays. The first thing we're going to do is sift. So I'm going to show Amani how to sift. We have about 2.5 cups of cake flour. So we're going to put about 1/3 of that in here. I'm going to use this just to help me out a little bit, Amani. So we're going to put about 1/3 of that in there. We're going to quickly add about 1/3 of our salt, 1/3 of our baking powder, 1/3 of our baking soda, and 1/3 of our red velvet cake secret ingredient, cocoa. And Amani, to sift, you simply move this little thing, and it is making sure that we don't have any lumps in our flour, okay? So I'm going to get you started, and you can turn the wheel. And while you're sifting, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? So Amani, now here you go to a very special high school. Where is that high school?
I go to Beckham Marshall Academy.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and sift. Just turn the little wheel. And that Thurgood Marshall is a very famous person. He's a lawyer, right? Are you interested in law?
Not really.
Okay. But you were telling us earlier what career you were interested in. What was that career?
I'm interested in the singing career.
Okay, you want to be a singer. And so what type of music do you like the best?
I like R&B music.
R&B. And who's your favorite artist?
Chris Brown.
Okay, all right. So go ahead and let's sift this last little bit. So Amani is sifting again because we don't want to have any lumps in our flour. Also, you want to have your baking powder, your baking soda, your salt all mixed in very well because those are the ingredients that help our cake to rise.
Okay, now Sheila, why is this called red velvet cake, or what is it that's making it red today?
Right, well today we'll be using food coloring. Typically you could use, some people use beet juice, which we're not going to venture there. Now Michael, why don't you start, Amani, with the creaming of the butter and sugar. Okay. This is another very critical piece. I'm going to come back to some red velvet facts in a minute, but we have 2 sticks of butter and 1.5 cups of sugar. And so, Mike, please show Amani how we cream butter and sugar.
Okay. Just turning the bowl. Now remember, the butter's been out for a while, so it'll be soft, right? So the butter's at room temperature. It's very important when you're creaming butter for the butter to be at room temperature. And then you want the butter to be a nice kind of blended look after it's done. So you don't want it to be grainy. Like right now, it's kind of grainy, looking like big pieces of almost sand or pebbles. So you want to take this over?
Try it.
So it'll be more like an actual cream. That's why they call it creaming the butter.
Now, while Amani does that, again, red velvet cake became very famous in the South. It's a Southern traditional cake made red with red food coloring, which we're using today. You need a whole lot of food coloring, a whole ounce, which doesn't seem like a lot until you realize the typical box of 4 is 1/4 of an ounce. So you gotta buy a lot of red food coloring. That looks great. We're gonna add our eggs to this, okay? So we have 2 eggs. Go ahead and mix those in.
There you go, that's good.
Very good. So now we're adding the eggs. Now, red velvet cake has some very secret ingredients. We talked about one earlier, which was cocoa. Another secret ingredient to red velvet is buttermilk. So you got that looking really great. So now, Maika, why don't we help Amani? We're going to do 1/3 of the flour, or 1/2 of the flour, and 1/2 of the buttermilk.
Okay.
Add it to the bowl. See, this is a three-way red velvet cake. So we're adding the butter and we're adding the buttermilk and the flour mixture. And Imani's gonna keep mixing it all in.
Doing a good job.
Doing a very good job. We're gonna do one more dosage of our buttermilk, and we're gonna move to our next secret ingredient, which is, as I mentioned, food coloring, but vinegar. Now you would never think vinegar would go into a cake. You know, vinegar doesn't sound like something you would put in a cake. You ready, Mike, for our next?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right, and then help Imani finish it up.
Okay.
Now going back to the vinegar is also acidic. It helps bring out the color in the dye. It also helps, just like the buttermilk actually, helps with the rising process. Okay, Mike, do you want to finish it up for us? Okay, so let's quickly whip that up. We're going to really dump our food coloring and our vinegar into the mix.
And then the vanilla last.
The vanilla will go last, and we'll fill our cake pan. So those are our secret processes, very distinct to red velvet cake. Good? Okay, now, Mon, you get to do the fun part. Mike, you might want to turn off the mixer for this.
Okay. And step back.
No, she could just pour it all in. Pour the food coloring.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. The whole thing. And we're going to put our vinegar in. Now, I just want to say to everyone, if you notice my fingers, I've been making red velvet cake for the last few days. That velvet cake stains. Do you want us to do it? I'll do it. Yeah. I wore my play clothes today because I'm very sensitive to the red dye getting everywhere.
I was trying to look cute today, so I wore a nice sweater. So the other thing that Sheila was talking about earlier, as she was explaining the process of cooking the cake, is that you can use varying levels of the red dye depending upon how red you want the cake to make. Once you see it iced, the contrast between our cream cheese icing and the red velvet cake is going to look really nice, and it'll make sense why it's a holiday cake.
We just added our vanilla, so that's it.
Okay.
As we go out, you know, we're going to start filling our cake pans. We're going to stick it in the oven at 350 degrees. It cooks really quick, 20 to 30 minutes max. And we're going to work on our cream cheese frosting when we come back.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, do you want to